Well, AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday was yet another nice barn burner. There's some interesting things that we kind of talked about in relation to the Wednesday Night Wars. So let's get into it. This is All Elite Review. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan, and welcome to today's edition of All Elite Review, where today we are going to be reviewing the 11th episode of Wednesday Night Dynamite, which took place in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in Garland, Texas, which put on yet another good show. Where do we even begin with this? Well, let's start with the so-called Wednesday Night Wars. For those of you that have been following that, AEW and NXT had something interesting happen this past Wednesday. As it turned out, both had the same number of viewers turn in for their shows. There's the same number of average viewers. Apparently, the number was 778,000 for both AEW and NXT. So I guess we could call this the first official tie of the so-called wars, which is pretty crazy to say the least. So if you're keeping score at home, it's AEW 8, NXT 2, and 1 tie. I think NXT will definitely have an advantage next week because they kind of have a little mini takeover going on. But AEW's got something cooking up as well for next week. They got the World Tag Team titles on the line. There's going to be a number 1 contenders match for the Women's Championship. You got Jericho against Jungle Boy, which we're going to be talking about in this review, I believe. Or was it last week? It was last week. Okay. But let's go ahead and get into this review and get this done and over with, because I'm just feeling kind of tired. So your dark results from Champaign went like this. Scorpio Sky defeated Peter Avalon and Jimmy Havoc in a triple threat match using the TKO. The Jurassic Express finally get their first win as a tag team over the Beaver Boys. And then Kenny Omega defeats Superbad Kip Sabian in the main event of AEW Dark and Champaign. So let's go ahead and get into the Dallas show. I think there were 6 total matches once again on the show for Dynamite. There was. First one was a squash match. Jon Moxley against Alex Reynolds of the Beaver Boys. I mean, this lasted 14 seconds. As soon as the bell rang, Moxley hit Reynolds with a running knee and then hit the Death Rider and got the 3 count in the victory. Afterwards, John Silver tries to go after Moxley, but gets hit with a paradigm shift instead. And then the Inner Circle's music hits, and they come out to the ring, and Jericho starts talking about, Moxley's history with him and all that stuff, and puts a Inner Circle t-shirt over his shoulder and says, "I want you to join us." Basically, he wants to try to avoid facing Moxley for the title, so he's just going to try to have him join him. Of course, Moxley's expressions was like, yeah, this is not going to happen. And as per the usual for squash matches, I give it 1.5 stars out of 5. The next match featured the Butcher and the Blade, Andy Williams and Pepper Parks against Cody and a tag team partner that the Butcher and the Blade chose to be Cody's partner, QT Marshall, who we've seen a couple of times on Dark. I will be the first one to admit that I wasn't really that impressed with his performances on Dark. Much different this time around. So highlights of this match: Cody hits a drop kick, a 10 punch. Parks, the Blade, hits a shoulder block. Cody with a nice power slam for a 2 count. The Blade hits a somersault plancha on QT. Cody with a spinning bulldog on the Blade. The Butcher and the Blade hit a drop kick, gut wrench, suplex combo for a 2 count. Blade hits a spinal tap. And then the Butcher and the Blade hit a side slam leg drop combo for a 2 count, which looked really good. QT hits a jawbreaker and an enziguri. And then the Butcher and the Blade does all kinds of crazy tag team offense for a 2 count. The Butcher puts in an arm lock, but QT comes out of it with a handspring enziguri, which looked really good. And the Blade misses a splash, and QT gets the hot tag to Cody. Cody hits a disaster kick on the Butcher, and then he hits a moonsault on the Blade for a 2 count. Hits a springboard cutter for a 2 count, and then Alley got involved, gave him a rake of the eyes. QT blind tags himself in, pushes Cody out of the way as the Blade comes at him. Hits the Blade with an elevated elbow strike, which looked really good. And then this is the moment when the crowd really got on QT's side, is when he decided to do a Sasuke special to the outside. The flipping part of it was more him just tumbling over the top rope, but he got both of the Butcher and the Blade, and the crowd actually started I mean, he got over with the crowd basically with that move, as crazy as it looked. But yeah, that was a pretty cool move, and even the announcers were just selling it like, yeah, that was damn good. And then QT hits a Crossroads, which is a hell of a lot better than the one that MJF hit. Cody does a tope suicida to the Butcher on the outside. QT hits a twisting swanton bomb, and you would have thought that would have been the 3 count, right? Nope, only got a 2 count. And then the Blade hits a stunner. The Butcher hits a lariat, and then the Butcher and the Blade hit their tag team finishing maneuver, which is kind of a double team version of Roderick Strong's End of Heartache, which is a suplex double knee backbreaker. They call it the Black Heart for the 3 count and the victory. Really good match. I gave this match 3.5 stars out of 5. And of course, the Butcher and the Blade were put over pretty good here. And afterwards, Cody's kind of sitting, at ringside, just kind of sulking from losing the match. And then Darby Allin blows by both the Butcher and the Blade and comes over to Cody and actually helps him to his feet. So it's like, wow, we have Darby Allin teaming with Cody now, and that's going to be a match on this coming episode of AEW Dynamite. The final episode of 2019, since they have Christmas off. And then afterwards, MJF comes out and cuts a promo, and it's a it's a hell of a promo, basically mocking Cody and saying, yeah, he'll accept his match against Cody, but he's going to have some stipulations for him, typical heel shit, and they're going to be revealed in Jacksonville, the first show of 2020. So it'll be very interesting to see what his stipulations are going to be for that match. And I would imagine it would be in for the February pay-per-view, which was revealed on this show, which we'll talk about here in a bit. The next match was the women's match. Big Swole, who recently signed a contract with AEW against Emi Sakura. I thought this was a pretty good match, a pretty decent match. Highlights of the match: Swole's hesitation kick for a 2 count, Sakura with a Mongolian chop and a hair snapmare and a hair abeel. Swole hits a thigh kick. Sakura does her rolling Mexican surfboard stretch, hits some knife edge chops. Swole with a nice lariat. Sakura hits a nice flatliner. We go to a commercial break. This part was actually pretty cool. Swole went for a roundhouse kick and a front sweep. Sakura dodged both of them, but Swole hits a headbutt and then a running uppercut and a wheelbarrow flatliner for a 2 count. That's pretty good. Sakura then hits a smash mouth and a crossbody corner splash, and then her butterfly backbreaker. Puts Swole in the abdominal stretch, and of course has her mic stand and shit. Swole hits a nice spear and a gamengiri. Sakura hits a hanging butterfly backbreaker and a twisting Vader bomb for a 2 count, but she misses a moonsault off the top rope. Both start trading shots. Swole hits a nice scissors kick for a 2 count. And then she hits the Dirty Dancing Ripcord Elbow finisher for the 3 count and the victory. So it's pretty obvious they're probably going to start pushing Big Swole a little bit. I gave this match 2.75 stars out of 5. And then Pac is interviewed backstage, basically saying, I want my rubber match with Kenny Omega. So I would imagine that they're going to be facing off against each other once again somewhere down the line. Next match is a tag match. Superbad, Kip Sabian and the chairman, Shawn Spears, against Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega. And this was the match where we started seeing some signs of possibly an Adam Page heel turn. We'll get into that here in a minute. But highlights of the match: Page hit a big boot. Page and Omega start doing some chops. At one point, Omega wanted to do a double high five with Page. Page was like, he patted him on the back and stuff, and Omega's like, yeah. So yeah, I think the seeds are being planted here for a Page heel turn. Omega with a pendulum backbreaker for a 2 count and a flying back elbow. Page hits a drop salt on both opponents, a drop kick on one person and then a moonsault on the other, got a 2 count. Sabian with a nice hanging neck breaker for a 2 count. Basically the one where he puts, it's basically a suplex onto the top rope and then does a twisting neck breaker off of it. Spears with a diving backbreaker for a 2 count, basically where you put someone in, like you're getting ready to go for an inward DDT, but you drop him across your knee instead. Omega gets the tag, starts hitting Polish hammers, hits a double basement drop kick and a double Kotaro crusher, which looked really good. Spears hits a lung blower and Sabian with a missile drop kick for a 2 count. He hits a Frankensteiner and a Gamengiri, and then Penelope Ford gets involved. Hits a Frankensteiner on Adam Page. Kip Sabian with a tornado DDT, and then Ford gets back in the ring and hits a back handspring elbow on Omega. And then Sabian hits a fisherman suplex for a 2 count. Omega hits the V trigger, and then all of a sudden the lights go out, and up on the stage, it turned out that Joey Janela had kidnapped Tully Blanchard, which is why Blanchard wasn't at ringside. And then Spears goes up the ramp and frees Tully from his chair because he was tied to a chair. And then Janela and Spears start fighting to the back. So, this is a rivalry that once again, has been going on for a while now. And that left Kip Sabian all alone, which was bad news for him. Omega hits a Snapdragon suplex and a V trigger. And then Page blind tags himself in and hits the Buckshot Lariat and gets the 3 count and the victory. And Omega had that kind of perplexed look afterwards, like, what the heck happened? It's just Page stealing the pinfall from you. So the signs are there for a Page heel turn, I would say. I gave this match 3 stars out of 5. After this, we saw a video package with Brandy Rhodes basically talking about the Nightmare Collective and how, like say Riho hasn't been around on Dynamite for a while, which kind of is a valid concern at this point. Although a lot of people don't realize that she was featured on the first 7 shows. The first 4 pay-per-views and then the first 3 episodes of Dynamite, but it's been kind of sporadic since then. Although to be fair, she has been busy with commitments over in Japan. But she will be on the next 2 Dynamites. This coming Wednesday, the 18th, she'll be basically observing who will be the number 1 contender, and then she'll defend the women's title on New Year's Day in Jacksonville. So there's that. The next match was Sammy Guevara against Luchasaurus. This one was decent, I suppose. Chris Jericho came out on commentary, along with Jake Hager, who didn't say a damn word. And one of the tags on when how they do the entrances and they have the names and the records and stuff, on top of Sammy's name it said Guevara experiences withdrawals when separated from his phone. Okay. So highlights of this match: Sammy with a nice drop kick and a Gamangiri. Luchasaurus with a big boot, which knocks Sammy off the top rope to the outside. That looked vicious as hell. Luchasaurus with a headbutt. Sends Sammy back into the ring with like a gorilla press toss. Sammy with a sky twister press to the outside. But Luchasaurus was a little bit out of position, so he kind of missed him a little bit. Still looked pretty good, though. Sammy with a running shooting star press off the apron. Luchasaurus with a wheelbarrow suplex and a head scissors driver. Sammy hits a wheel kick, but then Lucha hits a super kick. Sammy with a nice DDT, but then Luchasaurus catches Sammy Guevara out of a shooting star press. And he hits him with the Extinction, his finisher, where he basically puts him into like a tombstone position, but then turns it into like an inverted powerbomb for the 3 count and the victory. Jericho and Hager attack afterwards, with Hager going after Luchasaurus. Jungle Boy, who is also at ringside, comes in to assist and starts attacking Jericho. Jericho tries to send Jungle Boy out of the ring, but Jungle Boy skins the cat and hits a Hurricane Rana on Jericho. And Marco Stunt comes in and does a visual 3 count on Jericho, which pissed Jericho off. So kind of gives you the idea that, hey, this is something that could happen, next week with Jungle Boy against Jericho in a 10-minute time limit match, because Jericho said that you can't last 10 minutes with me. So I guess we'll have to see about that, huh? That should be interesting. I gave Sammy Guevara vs. Luchasaurus 2.5 stars out of 5. And it was at this point that AEW revealed their new pay-per-view, Revolution, which will be taking place in February. And it's going to be in Chicago. And I know a lot of people are like, man, Chicago again. It looks like it's going to be at a different arena, though, than what we saw at All Out. So there's that. And then we get to our main event of the evening, which was a Texas street fight. Oh boy. Proud and Powerful against the Young Bucks. And anytime the Young Bucks are involved in a hardcore style match, it's going to be off the chains crazy, and this was no exception. So, highlights of this match, and there were a lot of them. Proud and Powerful attacked the Young Bucks on the ramp while they were doing their entrance. Sammy Guevara was out there as well. Brandon Cutler tries to come out to assist, but Proud and Powerful send Cutler through the stage, kind of like how they've done with a couple other guys. But then the Young Bucks fight back. Sorry, I'm trying to clear my nose a little bit. The Young Bucks hit the Indie Taker on Guevara on the ramp, which is basically a jumping stuffed pile driver. And then there's a table that was set up near the entrance ramp. And Nick Jackson somersault plunges off of it onto Ortiz, onto the table, and got a 2 count. So this was a false count anywhere deal. This time around, as my got unscrewed. This thing. There we go. But yeah, they only got a 2 count out of that. And this was even more impressive for Nick Jackson because of the fact that, according to Matt, Nick had been laying on the floor all freaking day in their locker room because he had been suffering from severe flu-like symptoms. So that's pretty impressive, to come out and put on a performance like he did under the effects of the flu. So the Young Bucks with an elevator drop kick. Ortiz starts using, the sock with the baseballs in him or whatever the fuck is in him. Nick starts getting attacked by Proud and Powerful. Matt hits a spear on both while wearing the Dallas Cowboys helmet. Matt does a locomotion on Ortiz through a table, basically throws him over the top rope through a table. Santana counters by doing a back body drop on Matt through a table on the outside as well. And then Santana does a cannonball senton onto Nick through a table. So there was a lot of tables that were used in this match. We're up to 4 at this point. Ortiz hits a nice spine buster. Santana hits a somersault splash and then a lion salt for a 2 count. Ortiz starts using a trash can lid as a weapon. Santana starts using a cookie sheet. Matt starts using a trash can. Matt hits a crossbody to the outside. And then Nick sets up a trash can on Santana. It was either Santana or Ortiz, I can't remember. But he hits a 450 splash onto the trash can, onto, I think it was Santana. Jake Hager comes out and pulls the referee out before he can make the 3 count. Nick tries to do a penalty, flips over onto the apron and tries to do a penalty kick on Hager, but gets the ref instead. Jake Hager attacks Nick, and then Dustin comes out, Dustin Rhodes, and starts attacking Jake Hager, and they start fighting to the back. The Young Bucks have powerbomb, Gom and Gary combo, and then they hit their more bang for your buck, but to only get a 2 count because it took Aubrey Edwards, who was running out to replace Rick Knox, who got knocked out, a couple seconds, and she only got 2, and they only got 2 count out of that. Santana drop kicks Nick through a table on the outside, so we're up to 5 tables at this point. Proud and Powerful do a low blow, and then a street sweeper on Matt onto a trash can. That would have been it, but Nick pulls Aubrey Edwards out of the ring to stop the 2 count. And of course, you can't be disqualified because it's a street fight. Ortiz starts using the flapjack again. Santana gets sent through a table on the outside, so that's 6 total tables. Nick hits a nice bulldog on Ortiz into some chairs. They do the super kick party. Nick super kicks Ortiz while Matt is holding a chair. And then the Young Bucks hit a Meltzer driver on Ortiz onto a chair to get the 3 count and the victory, and become the #1 contenders for SCU's tag team titles next week. So that's what this match was as well, because they were the #1 and #2 ranked teams. This was the #1 contenders match to determine who would face SCU this coming week for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Needless to say, I'm a huge fan of hardcore wrestling, so this definitely appealed to me in a big way. And this was one hell of a match, and I enjoyed it to the nth degree. I gave it 5 stars out of 5. Yes, we have our 2nd ever match on Dynamite that gets a 5-star rating for me. So, huge thumbs up. And also huge props to Nick Jackson for, putting on such a fucking good a performance, despite the fact that he was suffering from the flu. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. As for my final rating for this show, it was a damn good show. I loved it. 8 out of 10 will be my rating for this show. So, huge thumbs up. And I can't wait for this Wednesday when we see the tag team titles on the line. I think SCU and the Young Bucks are going to tear the fucking house down. And I think that'll be the main event too, which it shouldn't be that big of a surprise anyway. Tag team titles are on the line. But that's going to wrap it up. A bit quicker than usual. I just wanted to kind of get through this real quick. But yeah, we got one more show to do in 2019, and then they have Christmas off, which I'll do my special episode of All Elite Review concerning Battle Bowl, and probably a couple other things too. But that'll do it for this edition of All Elite Review. Thank you very much for joining, and until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. Bye. Well, that is all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to rate, comment, favorite, like, and subscribe to my channels here on YouTube.com and over on BitChute.com. If you would like to sponsor my channel, go to my channel page at subscribestar.com. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the PackerMan, signing out. Have a good one.